Welcome to Blending the Family, the podcast. Topics can range from what is good wine on a first date, parenting tips, and not being afraid to ask for help. Here's your host, whose math tutor once said he should probably join the circus, Tommy Maloney.
Welcome to another edition of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your host, Tommy Maloney. How you doing? This is your first time listening, last time listening, in between, just checking it out, don't know what's going on. Welcome to my world. How are you? You doing good? You going on a walk right now? You taking the dog out? You shoveling snow? What are you doing? I'd love to know. Tommy at blendingthefamily.com. That's Tommy at blendingthefamily.com. Life is good. I am actually off, working in the home office, loving life. Time of this recording, my son Connor and I will be heading to Phoenix, Arizona for a hockey tournament during President's Day weekend, the last major hockey tournament. And then at the end of February, hockey season's over, and then it's baseball time. Baseball! Whew. All right. Let me get here first. On this episode, this is part 2 with Adrian Dater. Adrian Dater, you can find him on the social. You can find him in the show notes. So there you go. A little quick bio of Adrian Dater. He writes about the NHL for bookies.com. The longtime NHL writer, spent 25 years at the Denver Post, 20 of which as the beat writer of the Colorado Avalanche. Boo. We will talk on this episode, on part 2, why I am not an Avs fan. Adrian also covered the Avs for BSN Denver and was the lead NHL columnist with Bleacher Report from 2013 to 2016. Dater has written 6 books, including the best-selling hockey book, Blood Feud, Detroit Red Wings versus Colorado Avalanche, the inside story of a pro sports best and nastiest rivalries of its era, and was a regular contributor to Sports Illustrated from 2011 to 2013. Adrian grew up in New Hampshire, moved to Denver in 1991. He's married, has a son who's 15, and they live in beautiful here, Colorado. You know what? Let's just get into that. We're going to talk about. He doesn't really specifically mention it, but I picked up on it. We're going to hear about Impostor Syndrome. Again, why I do not like the Avs. I'm not a fan of the Avs. And you're going to hear Adrian talk about a gentleman named Sean Jensen. I'm going to put Sean's link in the show notes, and you can find out more about Sean. He's written some really cool kids books and Man of Faith. Seems like a really good guy. I reached out to him on LinkedIn, hoping he will respond back on LinkedIn. Whew. A lot going on this week. I like being home. If I had enough paid time off, I would work maybe every other week. Gosh, if I could do that, if I could get paid from this dreaded day job and work every other week, I think I'd be happy. I think my wife wouldn't be, but I'd be happy. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But what I mean by that is, I would be able to spend time with the family. I would be able to do what I want to be doing and creating this multimedia company that I know has so much potential. I could write more, because here's the thing. So with the dreaded day job, 100% travel, long hours, by the time I get to the hotel, the last thing I want to do is open up a laptop and write. I just want to go to bed. So that's what I've been enjoying these past few days, of being able to produce some Parenting Tip Tuesdays. Somebody asked me to write for their column, and I finally finished that up. Did some posting on social media. I mean, all the things I enjoy doing, but like I said, by the time I get to the hotel, I'm nutsy cuckoo. I want to go to bed. I want to just relax, and that's what I do. I like to relax. I'm looking around the office here. Usually I'll have a note or two, but yeah, that's really it. It's been wonderful. I was able to get caught up on my laundry, did some house cleaning, trying to keep the house clean for my wife when she comes home. It'd be better if I could cook dinner, but she doesn't come home till a little late. Like tonight, she'll have choir practice, so she won't be home till late. So I'm on my own for dinner, and I'm probably going to have an omelet for dinner. I'm looking forward to it. All right, that's all I really had to say. I mentioned Adrian Dater on this podcast, part 2. I hope you enjoy this. I hope, because a couple of things that, looking back on this episode, number one, this is not a typical episode. This is somebody who I admire from afar as a writer, as a sports writer. Also, I know somebody who has had these struggles with social media, and he's had internal struggles. That's why, like I said, we didn't really specify that we were talking about imposter syndrome, but you can hear in Adrian's voice that that's what it is. And a lot of successful people, trying to speak English, have that. Guess what? I have it. You might have it. It's okay. Because if you understand why you're going through that, and ironically, let me pull up my calendar real quick. February in Fort Collins, Colorado. The week of February 24th to 28th in Fort Collins. I should mention this. I should also put information in the show notes, which I hopefully will remember, is Fort Collins Startup Week. On the 28th, on February 28th, I am actually speaking at that event about imposter syndrome. So I'm super excited about being there. If you have ever been to the website, you will see the website that was created by WTF Marketing, our good friend Nick Armstrong. God bless him. But he's the one who created this Fort Collins Startup Week. So shout out to that. Shout out to Nick for helping put the website together. And as a matter of fact, he had to help me fix something. So there you go. So we've got Adrian Dater. We've talked about imposter syndrome, why I'm not a fan of the Avs, and I hope to see you. I hope to see you at Startup Week in Fort Collins. If you can't make it, sorry. Maybe we'll run into each other at an airport or somewhere else. I don't know. I'm all coffeeed out. I have no excuse. I just need some more water. There we go. All right. For the billionth time, Adrian Dater on this episode of the podcast, part 2. Hope you enjoy it. And that's it. You have a lovely day. Thanks for listening. Please share this podcast. Please leave a rating and review. Please have a nice day. Have a nice life. And as our good friend Terry Crews would say, your success is my success. Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring. And thanks for sharing.
Warning, you're about to listen to a conversation, not an interview.
Well, this is another conversation I've wanted to have with you, Adrian. And I had mentioned this in the email. I want to discuss with you why I am not an Avs fan.
Okay.
And I know this is right up your alley. So, you remember the whole Steve Moore incident when Todd Bertuzzi went nuts on Steve Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you listening, look it up. It was grotesque. It was, to me, other than, with Clint, that's different. This was outright I don't even know how to describe it. It was just Bertuzzi should be, in my view, should have been put in jail after this.
Yeah, it was
So
really
here's my reasoning. So Bertuzzi gets suspended. It was also, I believe, an Olympic year. And they lifted the ban on Bertuzzi so he can play for Team Canada. And when they announced that, I'm drawing a blank. Who's the president of the Avs right now?
the president,
or what's it? The former player.
Eric Lacroix?
No,
Francois Giguère, Greg Sherman?
no. Number 19.
Oh, Sakic.
So Sakic is there with Bertuzzi saying how happy he is for Todd Bertuzzi to be able to play for the Canadian Olympic team. And right then and there, Adrian, I felt that Joe Sakic turned his back on Steve Moore and allowed this to happen. The audacity of Bertuzzi being allowed to play right then and there. I couldn't become an Avs fan. I'm a diehard Blackhawks fan. I live Blackhawks. I know they suck this year, but that's okay. They beat the Avs recently.
Yeah, that's right.
But that is why I am not an Avs fan. It's because Joe Sakic.
That's interesting. I forgot that he said that, but yeah, I do. Now you said it, I do recall him saying that, and I was obviously surprised that he said that too. I would say that without devolving into a massive Steve Moore talk, that the culture was such in that time, and maybe in some ways still is, where as bad as it was what Bertuzzi did, it was kind of still in that culture at that time, like, a feeling that, hey, Moore got what he, got his, and it was a dirty hit from behind. I mean, it was terrible. I went on Vancouver radio that night as it happened and just ripped him and ripped Mark Crawford and Brian Burke and everybody.
Good.
Moore had not proven himself yet. He always had the tag of a college boy, quote unquote, even though he was Canadian, so, he shouldn't, I didn't expect people to be, but people were, he didn't fit into the hot, typical hockey culture like Bertuzzi did. It's just the fact of the matter. It was a bloody, vicious, dirty game, and that's always the way it was. And if you did any kind of quote unquote whining about it, which I don't think Moore ever did, but there were people who thought that he was faking it in some ways, and the Avs were faking it. They were milking it. That was definitely prevalent at the time, and probably Joe, though, was put on the spot. I wasn't there for this interview, but he might have been put on the spot. He's trying to say something nice about Bertuzzi being on his team now, which is a fact.
Right.
You're Team Canada, and you're trying to support your teammates. So without knowing exactly how the interview came about, I bet that's kind of what it was, and maybe it was blown up a little more than it should have been. You don't always know his tone. You don't know his demeanor. I don't think Joe Sakic would, ever condone what Bertuzzi really did. But I'll tell you, though, the culture, Joe was brought up in that culture, too. Of,
Right.
Really dirty, nasty things that happened to everybody. And, you just, it was almost like a, fair or not, it's like a survival of the fittest kind of attitude all the time. So, but yeah, I guess I had no idea that would be, that was your story in a sense, based on hockey and the Avs.
Well, my thought was here's a kid who, I mean, essentially got sucker punched and then some.
Oh yeah.
I just, I mean, to,
Oh, I
the
mean,
last
total
thing
sucker punch.
I've read about Steve Moore is that he still has concussion problems.
I haven't talked to him in a few years, so I don't know. I know that he, he said he was still. I don't think it's from what I've heard. I don't think he's in a dark room all day long or anything. For instance, I mean, I wrote about this, but I ran into him a few years ago in Las Vegas. He was there for his brother getting an award. I think it was the Masterson Award, maybe.
Okay.
And
Oh yeah, Dominic.
so he was there in Vegas to be with his brother. I just happened to run into Moore turning a corner. I think it was at the Wynn Hotel, and we talked for like 10 or 15 minutes. Um, off the record there, don't even probably don't remember 3/4 of what I said anyway. But I remember talking about his life and what he's gone through and how he was doing, and obviously it was still, it was in his life still. That was before this whole thing was settled, financially. Yeah, but you wonder, like, is it ever? It's never going to be settled, right, for him. It's always, it's a horrible thing, and the worst part about it was like, the absolute sort of denials by the Canucks at the first, at the first. So I was like, it was actually, oh God, what was the teammates who jumped on his back? I'm blanking on the Avalanche player's name. It'll come to me in a second, but they kind of tried to blame it on the Avalanche player who tried to get Bertuzzi off more, and it was the pylon that caused it. It's a Russian guy. I forget his name. That's a byproduct of being almost 55. But yeah, no, I was like, absolute denial. Don't admit any wrongdoing. And the reason why they're doing it though was because can't admit any kind of guilt or anything, because then the lawsuit only goes up that much more. I was there though the next day when Bertuzzi, people forget this, tearfully apologized to Moore on a podium. I was sitting front row up in Vancouver. They flew me out special just for this one thing. And those tears were not fake. He was really bawling. The cynics would say, was he bawling because he was suspended the rest of the playoffs,
right?
And he got caught, or was he genuine? I don't know any more about that. I've never talked to Bertuzzi to this day, ever at a one-on-one interview. So I have tried. Never gotten any success with it. So I don't know what is in his mind ever. But it was obviously a big story.
So, as the writer in me, Adrian, I want to ask. So, what is your writing process like?
Nothing real specific. I mean, I'm still a frustrated writer in a lot of ways. I feel like I should have written a hit movie script by now, or a massive American novel. So I probably should have more discipline than I've had. It doesn't, to me, whatever has happened in my life is supposed to happen. But the process usually, I like to be, I definitely have to have a quiet, in my own mind, I have to have quiet. I've been in a million loud arenas and people bustling around, but I always have to have it somehow in my own mind that it's quiet. And that means not talking to anybody, not being distracted by any conversation at all. That, to me, that's got to have that quiet mindset. But yeah, physically quiet too always helps me, I used to write a lot of stuff long form. You'd be surprised what comes out of your hand to paper still. I still try to sketch things out longhand sometimes with just little one-liners or sayings. I have a long yellow pad full of stuff, and that's often gets stuck into stories. These little one-liners. I don't know what it is about longhand, but that's how I started writing as a kid. Didn't know how to type, until I was, in college. Really, didn't have computers much. Did have them when I was a kid, but not to the extent obviously today. So I wrote everything. Everybody wrote. Kids my age, you know this. You wrote everything longhand.
Yeah,
you wrote papers in your own hand.
exactly.
You didn't type them. You're not going to sit at a typewriter with ink and ribbons and everything. You did that sometimes for really fancy papers, right?
Yes.
My mother would do them, too. I didn't know how to. Best course I ever took in high school, by the way, was typing. That helped me more than anything in the newspapers get started, because it was all about deadlines, especially at a big paper. Got to hit your deadline, man. Yeah, my first story ever for the Post. I mean, the copy was due 30 minutes after the thing was over. I mean, that would have petrified me, and it did petrify me. But I knew how to type fast. Thank God. Thanks to that high school typing class. We learned on real electric typewriters, with ribbons and everything.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, quiet. Sometimes, I haven't been a true writer in the sense that I haven't written a novel or anything. Most of my writing comes in arenas, practice media rooms. That's the process. Thinking quickly and writing fast about what you saw. That's my process, really. I've tried to write a movie script a few years ago, and I thought it was going to sell, and it actually got looked at in some Hollywood agents. And it didn't sell. It's still out there, but it didn't sell at the last minute. You get promised a lot of stuff in Hollywood, I learned, and then things fall through always.
Is it sports related?
No, it's a political thriller.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Complete pot boiler political thriller. I have no idea why I would have thought to write this whole thing, but that's why I thought it would sell, because it was like divinely inspired. I just got up every day in the morning and typed. I remember it was always 2 pages a day, 2 pages a day. And, you're done after that. And, after 50, 60 days, you've got a 120-page script, which is, normal length for most scripts, 90 minutes, minute per page, right? Yeah. So, hopefully I've still got a few years left where I can actually sit down and write something. Well, I've thought about a couple books about some stuff, maybe a little bit autobiographical in a sense. Some of my teaching that I did for a year and a half here in Colorado, I met some kids that, that I think I helped, and I got stories from that, and I thought maybe there could do a book there, some of the shared experiences we had, but I would love to be that writer who has a nice quiet room and a cup of coffee and overlooking a meadow or something. All my heroes have seemed like that's what the life they had. But I'm still a hockey scribbler, as it were. So, I think you should save those process questions for somebody who's actually written, a great American novel or something.
Well,
it's still not me yet.
But I mean, again, I
I know what you're saying. I'm very happy to have been a sports writer, though. Trust me.
What about this question, Adrian? If you could co-write either your next book or a book, fiction, nonfiction, who would you like to co-write a book with? Alive or dead? How's that?
That's a weird one. I co-writer. There's a guy from Chicago that I got to know who was a pretty well-known NFL writer and he quit. He just quit. Said I couldn't deal with the emptiness of it all after a while. He was a very religious guy. And he quit like a $200,000 a year job to pursue his own path, what he thought God wanted him to do. And a lot of that's been not much money, a lot of tough, hard knocks, it seems like. But he's somebody that I got to know when my world hit bottom. And he reached out to me, and I'm fascinated by his story, and I know he has been in mine too. So maybe the two of us could come up with a book about like two former sports writers who kind of changed their lives in a way, and yet still, write. And he's actually doing. He's been writing kids books for, like Diary of a Wimpy Kid kind of books, only based on based on sports. So his name is Sean Jensen. We've talked about it a little bit. I've actually told him, yeah, we should write a book together. It might be a really good book. So I guess, yeah, dude, Sean. I think that's still something that I would be interested in doing, is talking about his path and my path, and we kind of combine talking to each other, maybe kind of a book. I don't know.
Interview each other.
Yeah, but also offer lessons to the people who thought they had it all, maybe, and yet, it didn't. And also, you never should have thought it was all that anyway, because, I didn't get into this before, but I always felt guilty somehow being a sports writer and traveling on airplanes and staying in hotels and getting paid. And I thought, I don't know. I just have always had this thing where I didn't deserve it somehow. And that may tie into some stuff as a kid. I always felt like things were my fault. I probably was one of those kids who thought my parents' divorce was my fault somehow. And so I think that leads you to a very guilty conscience your whole life. And that's definitely was a problem of mine too. Like I just could never feel good about myself for some reason, because I just felt like I didn't deserve it somehow. Even in the height of my big, quote unquote, big time years writing for Denver Post, Sports Illustrated, and Sporting News, and USA Today, Hockey News. I mean,
books later.
Books, yeah. I mean, I had everything you would have thought you'd want. And I felt that at times, but other times I'd feel, honest to God, just completely empty, just spiritually, everything. I would lay in bed in hotels and go, why am I doing this? What is the point of this? And that's when things started to get a little bit worse for me too. I just didn't have everything in priorities. I was, I didn't, in a sense, I didn't. I knew I had it good, but I didn't think I deserved it, and also I didn't think it meant anything though either. When I found out, really, it does. Like sports writing has value. A lot of people have told me since, hey, quit your bitching, right? I get my relaxation in my life from reading what you do, and that sort of made me go, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. That makes a little more sense to me now. I can feel better about my job now. They say, hey, seriously, what you do actually gives me enjoyment, helps me get through my stress of my day. I thought, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I didn't realize that before. So now I do. Took me 54 years, but
Are you happy, Adrian, these days?
Happy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a loaded question, right? Much happier than I used to be, yeah. Yep. Never satisfied though. Always got something to worry about still. Always never satisfied in the sense like just can't smell the roses too well. Stop and smell the roses. Always a next goal. Always, all right, you did this, but now what? And what's next? Always that thing like, can't ever just relax, But I'll tell you, I'm doing a lot better than I used to be. Like, just having made it through what I did, it did give me a sense of satisfaction. Like, you survived it. You're never going to prove to everybody but who cares anyway? They don't know you very well. So that's part of my recovery too, in a sense, is not caring as much what people think. I still care, but I don't, I won't spend more than 1 minute on it, 1 second on it, really, as long as I know I did my best. If they don't like it, too bad, right? But yeah, I'm always going to have some critics out there. I definitely have some part of fan base out there that doesn't always like my style, and they really don't like it. Like they really, I still have some real haters out there.
But even though you have haters, I'm sure there's respect.
Well, yeah, maybe not on a couple people, but yeah, no, I definitely at least known that about myself for a long time. Like I have had respect of other writers in the business, and obviously that means a ton. Um, People. I'm not going to mention names, but some fairly big names in the business, consider me a good writer, and they told me that like 30 years ago or 25 years ago, and I thought, oh wow, that feels good. Yeah, I never had a problem with thinking about my talent and ability. I'm always very confident when I wrote, like always. But I guess it's the other stuff in life. Like I didn't have any confidence in myself for just so long and everything. I always just thought I was a goof. I don't know. But every time I wrote, like I always felt very calm, very, very. Probably what made me a good beat reporter too was I could always just sit and think on a 2 minute deadline, and get that thing in on time. Like, uh, West Coast game, 11:15, deadline 11:30. Game just ended 1 minute ago. All right, you got 15 minutes, Dater. But you'd be surprised how long you can write in 15 minutes. I mean, I could basically type 100 words a minute pretty clearly. 1,500 words is way longer than most newspaper stories. So if you do half of that, you've got a great, you could do good work if it makes sense and it's in on time. So always felt confident there. But yeah, the rest I didn't think so. But yeah, happiness, I would say still a work in progress as far as, but I don't know what a bliss really means. I know that you're still worried about things in life, my kid, is he going to be okay? What's going to happen with him? I don't, but I guess the difference is I don't worry. I don't focus on myself quite as much as I used to. Now I can sort of look a little more abstractly at my life and say, yeah, I kind of get how you were now. And yeah, you were kind of messed up, but you made it through. And now we're kind of on this other side where you can, accept it and know a little bit, be smarter about it, and then that in itself brings a definitely more of an inner satisfaction than I probably didn't have before. So yeah, to answer your question, I think I'm pretty happy, but I still have some I still have ambition, and I'm not just sitting on my rocking chair. I feel like I have something important still to write in life, and maybe because I haven't actually done that, I still have a little bit of anxiety about stuff. But maybe that's a good thing too. I don't want to be a lazy guy who just has absolutely nothing to think about. I think everybody would admit that too. They always want to achieve one more thing somehow.
So let me ask you one question, one last question. How's that? Because I
Okay.
want to respect your time, Adrian.
Yeah, yours too.
What's the biggest change you've experienced this last year?
This past 12 months?
Yes.
Hmm. Uh. Oh, well, that's easy. Yeah, I guess I sort of drift to professionally, that in this sense that professional equals personal in a lot of ways. Well, I left a job 6 months ago. Kind of quit spur of the moment, you know, and was unhappy there too because I thought I'm still not working for myself. I feel like I should do my own site, be my own boss, put my stuff out there. Gosh, I always get all these click numbers and subscription numbers for other people. Why don't you do it for yourself? And I was scared for a while. Like I was scared to do that. And but I quit one night and thought, oh boy, I got nothing to fall back on really. But because case you hadn't noticed, there aren't too many newspaper jobs, or even for even for people with no baggage, much less the baggage I had. So, but I again a little bit of serendipity. Somebody came into my life, said, would you be interested in trying this new hockey website kind of thing, network thing? You'll be your own boss, basically. You'll own the site. We'll do some of the back end work, the technical stuff, but basically it's all you. We'll take a very small cut of things, maybe, and otherwise, just put your stuff out there and see if people subscribe. So that's the biggest change. I started my own website 6 months ago, covering the Avalanche, home as much road as I can afford. And that's really been great. Like, that's made me really happy professionally. Even though, I'm still obsessed over subscription numbers and what's the traffic count and all that stuff still. But I've had enough success in these first 6 months to go, oh man, dude, you finally did it. Not only did you finally stop being chicken and actually go at it for yourself for once, but you've had some success at it too. So that's been the biggest change in me in the last years. A different feeling about myself of really working for yourself and being rewarded for it.
And what's the website for the listeners?
ColoradoHockeyNow.com. ColoradoHockeyNow.com. I know that's a very generic title, but there's a lot of legalese with the website names. You can't use the word Avalanche. You can't use Avs. You can't use anything.
Right.
So anyway, I'm part of right now it's only 3 sites, but I'm part of a network of hockey sites. There's Pittsburgh Hockey Now, there's Boston Hockey Now, and there's Colorado Hockey Now. So we have a network of sites. I'm the proprietor of the Colorado one. Think of it as a franchisee kind of.
Okay.
I make all the money, give a very small cut to headquarters. But basically everything you see on the site is my doing. There's no editor except me. I make all my travel arrangements, et cetera, et cetera. I put it out there for people to subscribe. $29.99 a year or $3.49 a month. Take your pick. And
very reasonable.
So far I'm making a pretty good go of it. Definitely ahead of projections. So there you go. That's my life to this point.
I think you're happy, man. I really do. Deep down, I think you're happy.
I don't know. I think I'm also a pretty good salesman in some ways. I was a very good salesman back in the day. By the way, I made a fortune as a timeshare salesman in Cape Cod. So I think so, though. I think that I'm speaking genuinely. I'll never be, satisfied. I mean, it's an hour from now, I may, throw my phone down and break it or something because I lost a chess match. I still have problems with competition. And I'm saying that not exactly kiddingly in a sense. I actually did do that about 8 months ago. Well, still got a bit of a hot temper when it comes to competition. Definitely paid for that in more ways than one. My wife not only got furious at me, but I had to pay like $350 for a new phone. But I lost a game of online chess. I love chess. That's one of my hobbies. Play a lot of chess. I want to win. And I blew this game. And I threw the phone, not thinking I would do any damage really, and then it shattered the whole screen. So, yeah. But yeah. Thank you very much for that. I hope so. You're gonna have your down days still.
Oh yeah.
As a person, there are times where I still think about what happened and get either upset about it for whatever reason, but I definitely don't. I would say most days I don't really actually think about it, as opposed to every 5 seconds. And again, just grateful to people to have given me more of a chance. That includes Bleacher Report, by the way. I should have mentioned that I got hired by them like 6 months after that whole thing happened. So I was basically kind of sort of full-time employee for Bleacher Report 6 to 8 months after the whole thing happened. And God bless them, really. Like, they came out of nowhere. And I was like, hello, have you read the headlines about me? Do you know, what are you doing calling me for? And they said, yeah, we know, but we also think you're a good writer, and we want you to be our hockey writer. And I'm like, what? Yeah. So thank you to Bleacher Report. Had 2 good years there. I still taught as well on the side. I was doing 2 jobs.
Are you still
But yeah, they rescued me in a lot of ways too. What?
Are you still working for the Fan?
Yeah, I'm their hockey. I'm their Avs insider. 104.3 The Fan.
Yeah.
Yep. Every night after games, on home games, and home and road on weeknights, I meant. And yeah. I go on every Wednesday morning with Sandy and Orlando Franklin too, which really happy to be on the air at the Fan. Great people there, and I used to be their insider way back in the day. Really happy to be back with them.
Not to play psychiatrist on it with you, Adrian, but I really do think deep down that you had this issue,
Yeah.
very blown up issue in your world. But I think some of the things you said during that time, you were bored. You just didn't have the same energy. And years later, look at you have your own. Literally, you have your own business. You still get to talk hockey. You still get to write. You've got a lovely family that supports you. I think you're doing good, Adrian.
Boy, when you put it that way, yeah, thank you. That really, that hits me in a way. You're right. There's so much to be thankful for, and you know, I I always was pretty thankful for what I had, but I just couldn't be happy with it somehow. I don't know what it was. I was so frustrated by it too. There were moments where I think, God, I'm the luckiest son of a bitch ever. A few months before I was working in that pre-press department, making $6 an hour. Literally a year later, I was riding a plane with Joe Sakic and Patrick Waugh talking hockey on their private plane. And how do you go from that to that? It was just amazing to me. And yet that kind of helped me through the bad time too. Like, okay, I went from having it all supposedly to shoveling snow and as a substitute teacher as a gym teacher in a snowstorm so the kids could go out and play basketball that day. My job was to go out and shovel the entire parking lot. And I'm just sitting there shoveling going, oh my God, 2 months ago I was a big-time writer at the Denver Post. Now I'm shoveling snow. But yet I thought, hey, you've got a life of extremes in a way, man. This is just another chapter. I did think that, even though it was awful and just hell, I did think this is going to be a chapter. It's going to be a bad, bad black chapter in the book. But it's going to be a chapter, and there's going to be a few other chapters. I did think that, and that's what kept me going. And so thank you for reminding me of all that. As I sit here tonight, lucky man in so many ways.
Adrian, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to when you write that book. I'm looking forward to when you and Sean Johnson write that book. And I do want credit that I came up with the idea for you two guys.
Okay. I'll give you the check will be in the mail, man. But seriously, thanks for the interview. It was fun to do. I just hope somebody listening out there can either relate, or if you do go through something what I go through, just know that there's hope, and you'll make it through. Just keep battling.
Thank you, Adrian.
Okay, man.
Rock.
Thank you, Tommy. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Blending the Family, the podcast. We hope the little kid kicking your seat behind you while flying across the country was less painful than listening to Tommy. Wait. Please leave a rating and review, however you get this podcast, whether it's through the mail or from your neighbor or listening in under the couch. I don't know. You tell me.